Welcome. I'm your guide. Did an oil baron rewrite medicine and manhood? Today, 3 power moves. Forge purpose, lead with discipline, and turn knowledge into action. Meet John D. Rockefeller Sr., a titan, controversial and relentless. Watch how his systems reveal battle-tested principles for leadership, resilience, and self-mastery. America's first billionaire. In today's dollars, over $400 billion. His name meant industrial power, forged in the fires of the new petroleum age. Through Standard Oil, he built a near-total monopoly, around 90% of the U.S. market, a titan of the Gilded Age. But his legacy reaches far beyond oil. As public opinion turned, Rockefeller began a second act, arguably even more impactful. In later life, he launched massive targeted philanthropy. He didn't just build monuments, he aimed to reshape society from the ground up. Earlier, we covered his huge impact on American education. Now, the parallel story that touches all of us. How Rockefeller shaped the foundations of modern medicine, and how that paved the way for the modern pharmaceutical industry. This wasn't random charity. It was calculated, strategic, systematic. Philanthropy run like a global corporation. Rockefeller and his chief advisor, Frederick T. Gates, brought oil industry efficiency to public health. Precise, data-driven, relentless. Principle 1. Rationalize. Impose order on a chaotic field. Principle 2. Centralize. Consolidate power and resources into elite institutions. Principle 3. The big one. Standardize. One uniform model for medical education and practice nationwide. To see the scale, look at the world they faced. Early 1900s medicine, chaotic theories, patent cures, and outright quackery. Their mission, demolish the old world of folk remedies and for-profit schools, and replace it with rigorous, research-grounded standards. By the early 1900s, John D. Rockefeller had largely retired from the day-to-day operations of Standard Oil, the colossal empire he had built. He had accumulated a personal fortune so vast it was difficult to comprehend, estimated at nearly 2% of the entire U.S. economy. But this unprecedented wealth came at a cost. With it came intense and unforgiving public scrutiny. A new wave of investigative journalists known as muckrakers began to peel back the layers of his business empire. Chief among them was Ida Tarbell, whose scathing exposé, The History of the Standard Oil Company, laid bare the aggressive, often predatory practices that crushed competitors. The public narrative shifted. He was no longer just a successful businessman. He was painted as a ruthless monopolist, the embodiment of corporate greed. His name became a symbol of the dark side of the Gilded Age. Seeking to reshape his legacy, Rockefeller turned to his trusted advisor, Frederick T. Gates. Together, they began to systematize his giving, transforming it from simple charity into a strategic, large-scale operation. Gates, a former Baptist minister with a sharp analytical mind, urged a new philosophy of scientific philanthropy. He argued that simply donating to the needy was inefficient. The goal should be to fund the root causes of societal problems, not just their symptoms. Their philanthropic efforts began with education, most notably with the founding of the University of Chicago, transforming it into a world-class research institution. But their next target was even more ambitious. American medicine, a field they saw as ripe for radical transformation. At the turn of the century, the state of medical care was chaotic and dangerously inconsistent. Many so-called doctors had minimal training, and hundreds of proprietary, for-profit medical schools operated with virtually no oversight or consistent standards. After investigating the field, an appalled Gates called the state of American medicine a disgrace to our civilization. The solution he proposed was to apply the same principles of efficiency and the scientific method that had revolutionized the oil industry to the field of public health. They would envision a new kind of medicine, one based not on tradition or guesswork, but on empirical evidence and rigorous laboratory research. Standardized, high-quality professional education became the backbone of this new vision. The strategy was clear. Don't just reform old schools, build new institutions from the ground up, setting an unassailable standard for others to follow. This created a powerful, self-sustaining model, fund basic research, train a new generation of scientific clinicians, and have them practice in modern teaching hospitals. It was a system designed to run at scale, forever changing the face of medicine. While the institute generated knowledge, the way medicine was taught had to be remade. Over 150 medical schools, many little more than diploma mills. The General Education Board partnered with Carnegie. Abraham Flexner surveyed every school in the U.S. and Canada. An 18-month tour culminated in the 1910 Flexner Report. Filthy facilities, non-existent labs, unqualified faculty, laughably low standards. The public outcry created immense pressure for reform. Flexner prescribed a model, university-based, strict admissions, 2 years lab science, 2 years clinical training, full-time scientists and clinicians, not part-time practitioners, emulate the standard or close. Constructive destruction, millions for compliant schools, withheld funds for the rest. The effect was swift and dramatic. Survivors were larger, better funded, university-based, and lab-focused. A new medical order aligned with the progressive era's faith in expertise. Disease became an engineering problem with scalable solutions. The 1910 Flexner Report, a scathing critique of American medical education, became a blueprint for radical reform. Powered by millions from philanthropists like John D. Rockefeller, the aftermath was swift and decisive, completely remaking the landscape of medical training in North America. The old guard of practicing physicians who taught part-time was swept away. In their place, a new professional class of full-time salaried researchers and professors took control of medical schools, dedicating their careers to academic medicine. A rigorously standardized curriculum, modeled after the German university system, was implemented nationwide. It placed an unprecedented emphasis on the basic sciences as the bedrock of all medical knowledge. The path to becoming a doctor was now rigidly structured. 2 years of intensive laboratory work in anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and pharmacology were required before a student could even begin their clinical training. This was a radical break from the past's passive observation and rote memorization. But this progress came at a steep cost. The new higher standards and expensive infrastructure requirements forced hundreds of schools to close. Among the casualties were most of the institutions that had educated women and African Americans, drastically narrowing the entry points into the profession. As a result, the medical profession became more exclusive, more male, and more white for decades to come, creating a legacy of demographic homogeneity that the field is still working to overcome. The new physician was trained to think like a scientist, to trust only what could be observed, measured, and tested in a controlled setting. The patient's subjective experience became secondary to objective, quantifiable data. Hospitals, once charitable institutions for the poor, transformed into gleaming temples of science. They became the primary centers for diagnostics, complex surgery, and the application of novel, lab-tested treatments. The university-affiliated teaching hospital became the pinnacle of this new system, the prestigious nexus where cutting-edge research, rigorous education, and patient care converged. This scientific training primed physicians to seek magic bullets, specific, powerful compounds designed to target specific diseases. This reductionist approach promised a cure for every ailment, found not in nature, but in the laboratory. Consequently, the demand for standardized, tested, and mass-produced drugs surged, fueling the rise of the modern pharmaceutical industry. In this new paradigm, traditional herbal and holistic approaches, which couldn't be easily standardized or patented, were dismissed as unscientific and pushed to the margins of medicine. The prescription pad became the ultimate symbol of this new authority, the final link translating laboratory science into a direct intervention for the patient. In essence, the Flexner Report didn't just reform medical education, it created a new philosophy of medicine. This integrated model of science, industry, and clinical practice still defines the structure and priorities of modern healthcare today. The Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, founded in 1901, pioneered a new model. John D. Rockefeller Sr. and Jr. poured tens of millions into world-class facilities. Simon Flexner recruited elite scientists and let them pursue fundamentals, an engine of discovery with direct public health impact. They showed viruses could cause cancers in animals, a revolutionary idea. A serum for spinal meningitis reduced mortality dramatically. Rouse's tumor viruses and Avery's DNA as heredity were landmark Rockefeller Institute contributions. Well-funded, concentrated, professionally managed research became the template. Industry adopted the model. Hire top chemists and biologists, seek patentable compounds, identify pathogens, find chemical agents to destroy them, the magic bullet approach. Specific cures could be patented, manufactured, and sold. The Institute effectively wrote the R&D playbook Pharma would follow for a century. It didn't just produce knowledge, it professionalized discovery itself. The Rockefeller-built ecosystem, schools, hospitals, institutes, primed modern pharma. It produced discoveries and a profession trained to use them. Before scientific medicine, drug-making was chaotic and often harmful. Now, standardized, tested, effective chemical therapies. Hormones led to insulin, vitamins to supplements, chemistry to sulfa drugs and later antibiotics. Penicillin scaled during World War II. Companies pivoted into pharmacological research. Doctors became the distribution channel and gatekeepers. Pharma marketed to doctors, detail men, samples, studies. A powerful feedback loop formed between industry and practice. Foundations grew from oil profits. Many drugs emerged from coal tar and petroleum byproducts. Pharma became a major consumer of bulk chemicals, not solely to sell byproducts, but the industrial logic is clear. From raw materials to marketing, the enterprise became integrated and profitable. Beyond the U.S., Rockefeller-backed campaigns targeted diseases worldwide. Hookworm campaigns mapped prevalence, taught sanitation and shoe wearing, built latrines and dispensaries. They reduced disease and improved productivity, then scaled globally. Coordinated, well-funded interventions combated widespread infections. They seeded public health institutions worldwide. Critics saw top-down programs that medicalized social problems and ignored root causes. Public health saved lives and projected American soft power. Separate documented critiques from unsubstantiated allegations. Claims that Rockefeller created diseases or suppressed cures lack credible evidence. Mainstream historians find no verifiable support. These remain conspiracy, not fact. Substantive critiques target reductionism and exclusion, delegitimizing alternative and holistic approaches. Conflicts of interest, patents, high prices, aggressive marketing, lobbying, blurred public health, and profit. A democratic question: who holds philanthropy accountable when it reshapes entire sectors? The Rockefeller system favored industrial-fit science and patentable magic bullets. Health became discrete problems with product-based solutions. Prestige and funding concentrated in hospitals and labs, not communities. Serums celebrated. Social reforms sideline. Most spending targets treatment and tech. Prevention lags behind. Efforts on diet, environment, and design receive a fraction of resources. Standard Oil as chemical processor dovetailed with organic chemistry's rise, from dyes to drugs. Rockefeller-funded chemical therapeutics created reliable markets for petrochemical products. Rockefeller was a builder and a destroyer, a healer and an industrialist. He tore down a chaotic system and installed a standardized university-based science. The gains saved countless lives, but it also enmeshed medicine with corporate interests. Many present challenges stem from those early choices. Your takeaway for self-improvement: forge purpose, build systems, measure relentlessly, standardize mornings, centralize focus, act on evidence, not impulse, serve others while you win. Start today. Write your mission, schedule a 60-minute deep work block, and execute daily. Rim high. Reminding men that strength is built through struggle, and greatness is earned through purpose.